So now nowhere it turns on.
All right, what's up, everybody? Here we are live. I am at the Horns High Studio satellite office, also known as my house. And I got my friend A.R. Hayes here with me. What's going on, Mr. Hayes?
Well, it's good to see you, Pete. You and I
Yeah,
have not been able to do a lot here just in the last little bit, but it's good to see you. I'm glad to
for
see
sure.
you're doing well.
Yeah, everything's been going pretty well. I had an appointment with my wound care team that's been helping me with the amputation, and I got the free and clear, so now I can get my prosthetic ordered, and I'll be on the road to being able to stand up again here. So working on it.
Well, step by step, my friend, keep on moving forward with that positivity here.
Hell
Soon,
yeah,
maybe I won't have to wear the little protective over my eye, but they
yeah.
want me to stay protected. As you know, I had one surgery down, a few more to go. And I'm excited to say so far it feels like we're in the right direction. So
That's
we're
fantastic, man. I'm glad to see that. I see some people here already. AR popping in the chat here. We got a new member I wanted to call out. uh, Josie Weaver. So, welcome to the Horns High Club, Josie. That's awesome. And
got some
just so you guys know, I know that the last few lives I've talked about this. My eyesight is
No, I know
A
that
and I,
the last
both
few
AR
lives
and
I've
I
talked
are
about.
dealing with this issue with our eyes. But ironically enough, they're somewhat similar. But I've got cataracts from my hyperbaric chamber therapy. Long story, but nonetheless, I having a hard time seeing. But I have my YouTube Black on, and I'm able to look at it on my phone and read the comments. So that's how I'll be addressing your comments and suggestions in the chat. I'll do the best I can. I mean, they get kind of fast and furious there, but I'll try to stay up with that kind of thing. And just so you know, in case you're looking at me and wondering why I look like Mr. Magoo looking up at the camera, it's because it's hard to see some of this stuff. It's StreamYard, man. It's like you need a magnifying glass, even with good eyes, to see it, let alone what I got going on. So, but yeah, I'm glad everybody's here, kind of getting people filtered in. Um, Always with the live, you get that little bit of intro time to where people are getting seated. Like you go to the movies, AR, you're sitting there, right? You got there early, right? You're sitting where you want to sit. And then this fool comes in at the last second, the whole excuse me. And everybody's got to move and like you got food laid out. I mean, have you ever had that happen to you?
unfortunately, yeah. I mean that's movie
Yeah,
theaters on a daily, it seems like
yeah.
for sure.
But virtually it's okay. But see, when we were back in the day when we were doing the movies and you had to buy your tickets there. Now you can pick your seat online and they're like, recliners. I mean, it's so much different. But anyway. But look at here at Donna Lembo. Always Donna's fantastic. Huge supporter of Murder Metal Mayhem and a Horns High Club member as well. Um, and people just wishing us well, they are, which is nice. Anna Roland. Um, Oh, yeah, that's funny. Anna Roland said, I spy a shining bath curtain. Very, very good. I got to say, I'm impressed with that attention to detail, Anna, because I didn't intend for it to be seen. But it is exactly what you think it is. And here's the reason. I'll explain why I have a shining bath curtain is because I have grandkids and I wanted to put like a horror movie type theme in the bathroom for whatever reason. And you see those bath mats that get like bloody, like when you step on them, like that kind of thing. But I thought my grandkids are going to come over and scare the hell out of them. So I thought when I saw this, it was like the perfect thing because they don't know what that means. And I also have a welcome mat like that. When you go into Horns High, you cross over the welcome mat of the same shining imprint there. So I'm going to do a full tour of Horns High Studios once it's been set up for me with the wheelchair. But I've got somebody working with me to get it cleared out and reorganized and move some things around so that I get back out there and do videos from there. Because AR, you said you miss seeing me in the blood-soaked walls of Horns High Studios.
I think you just you fit so well in your Hortseye studio, man. That's where you and I did our first initial interview, and it was
Right.
just always something that really it stuck out to me. It's been in the back of my head, and I'm excited to see you, bust through everything you've been through health wise, and get back in that studio and really pound it out again. And I know our community is excited for that too. Our community.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, the VA got me a scooter, and I think that's how I'm going to get out there. And then I'm going to get a second wheelchair and have a second wheelchair out there so that I can get from the scooter to the wheelchair. Scooter will be too clumsy in the studio, but you guys will love the tour. It's insane. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're new to the channel, go watch some of my videos from like last year and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's wicked, and it was designed for that. And that's where we record the podcast, actually. So two different things, the podcast and then this channel. The podcasts are available on this channel, but not they're two different things. All right. Well, the rules, pretty simple. We don't play around. We don't want to deal with nonsense. So if that's, what you're here to do, then you'll be, put in a timeout like a child, and then you'll be done. And then that's it. And not going to play with it. So we got some mods in the crowd. Thank you, mods, and you know what to do if you see any of that. I could do it too. But anyway, we don't usually have issues. So let's think positive. And AR, this case, I mean, Idaho 4 is just going crazy. I mean, people are just like you were talking with me before the bell of all the stuff that's going on. But did you want to say anything before we do that, though? Make sure you like this video. We're putting it on both channels, so make sure you support AR and Murder Metal Mayhem both, whichever way you're watching it. If you're watching it on the replay, drop a comment in. Let us know what you thought about it. But what do you think, AR, just kind of in general with how the case is going? And we hear we're coming up on only a few months before this trial starts, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is crunch time. And everybody, I think, that's followed this case has really been working up to this point to where it's time. We got to get through this jury selection, get through the questionnaires, get the jury selected, and then get this into the hands of the courtroom and before a jury so that we can hear what's real and true as for the evidence that's going to be released. And we're going to be able to hear the discussions back and forth and formulate our own thoughts and our own opinions. And, I think that's what we're all waiting for. Because there's just so much, Pete, that's a crazy thing. You take a step away for a minute, which you take a step away from this case. And when you come back, there's just more out there on the plate to talk about. There's more to dive into. And to be honest with you, I think at times it becomes pretty stressful and overwhelming, and you're just not even sure if you want to do it or, I mean, it's a tough case. This is definitely one of the oddest cases that I've ever been around. And now, like you and I were talking about, we got a Friday night special on Dateline that's literally being released, in my opinion, to taint more of the jury pool than what's already been done. And I'm appreciative of the content creators that have began covering that already. I stopped into Harsh's channel, give him a shout out. I watched a little bit of his work, Jules of All Trades. I've been watching you. I've been watching a lot of the people out there. and I've just avoided putting my 2 cents in. I'm just taking a break.
Yeah. No, I think it's great to see the creators standing up to this nonsense. I was really inspired watching some of the stuff Lana was talking about here in the last couple days, but she's just fed up with it. I mean, the outright lying and covering up stuff, with the phone data and all of this. I mean, it's so shady. It's like if they really genuinely had the goods on this guy, then why are they playing games with this kind of stuff? I mean, I just don't understand it unless they want to keep our minds occupied in this nonsense while the real deals are going down, that we don't even know about. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing ideas out there, but it's just totally messed up. And I think it's great to see creators saying it like it is. You want to watch News Nation and hear them, talk about, that Brian Koberger broke into his neighbor's house and all that kind of crap that we heard about, and stalking the women and all those things, and then all panned out to be BS. So they've tried it. They keep trying it. I don't know what they think. It's like a kid. It'd be like a kid that stole some cookies from the cookie jar and then put them under the rug and hope that mom wasn't going to find out. I mean, you're going to find this stuff eventually, and then what do you do? And then
Somebody's
you look like
asking me
an
what I'm
idiot.
sipping on over here. I want to make sure they know I'm not drinking tequila or anything, but I've got some Suero. It's an electrolyte drink, 0 sugar. It's good for diabetics. It's like Pedialyte, but it doesn't have sugar, and
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
definitely helping me. Definitely helping me.
And my drink of choice here, some dollar store sugar-free cherry limeade water, frizzy water. I
Yeah, I
like
love
drinking
how you
those.
stick to that
Those-
sugar free, right?
Yeah, they're amazing. So yeah, I pound them down here. So, but no alcohol here right now. But yeah, so it's I think it's and I think that's why people are so intrigued with this. They're just like can't get enough of talking about all these rabbit holes. See Jacob Monster 999 in there. Thanks, Jacob. He's been hanging around lately. I see
We
Donald
always have
Lembo.
a
You checked your stream out too, AR.
We've always got an amazing crowd with us. So blessed to have so many that stop in, and we definitely love not only the support, but we love the conversation, Pete. That's one thing that you and I have spoken about too. We like a good debate. We like a good discussion. I don't think there's anything wrong with people like yourself and I or other creators that want to discuss this case. I just think that like it gives us an outlet away from the mainstream media that's doing far more in discussing. They're actually sabotaging this
Right.
case where we're discussing, we're bringing light to things. And that's one reason why I enjoy, even when I'm away. Of course, I just bring my headphones on and Jen wonders what I'm doing. And I'm popping in to check out my favorite creators, listen to their content like yourself, and just keep up to date with you guys' thoughts. So great crowd. And Pete, I'm, even though I step away and don't speak as much, I definitely love listening to the things. And I know you had a hot topic, and I know it's breaking because I believe it was Truth and Transparency that dug in with an individual about this green Elantra. And I know you wanted to dive into
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah, I definitely do. I wanted to real quick here though. I had a comment from oh shoot, I think I missed. I'm trying to keep up in the chat. It's flying by.
Good
Um,
luck with that.
oh, okay, here I found it. Jacob Monster 999, who I just called out and said thanks for coming into the live, but he asked about the 2 a.m. Um, video supposedly behind the house that said that or that claimed that they saw a blonde running from the house at 2 a.m. What do you think about that, AR? I know that was just showed up in a chat room, so no way to verify it at all. But I've never heard anything more about that. They claim they mailed it or sent it to the Idaho State Police, and then that's it. No more word of it. But do you think there's any validity to that?
I do actually. At the end of the day, I do, because it's been buried and backtracked so much. I think they were forced to backtrack that was legitimately going on. I don't know why the camera was there or what it caught. I can't speculate on that, but I have a gut feeling that there's something legitimate about that, because everything that we're backtracking to the beginning of this case of people's what they were saying is now having some truth to it. It doesn't matter how many of these people we doubted, like so many wanted to tear apart WSU Kim, and now all of a sudden, I think people have to sit there and scratch their heads and go, well, I think there's a lot of legitimate things that were said by this woman that she got tore apart about. I don't know where she is now. I don't know what's going on. I'm
She's
just
a
using that as
member. She's a Horns High Club member.
Is she?
She is. She's been a member for a long time. I've asked her multiple times to do an interview with me. I told her I'd treat her fair. I told her I was on her side. I believed what she said then. I believe what she said now. And I just never got a reply. But I'm sure she's just sick of it and probably doesn't want to deal with it anymore. But I can't say I blame her, But if you're out there, Kim, please get a hold of me, Pete at murdermetalmayhem.com.
I mean, I think legitimately she made an attempt to, I almost even want to use the word, she carefully attempted to give information that's legitimate, but she tried to do it in a careful way, and she got tore apart, for doing that.
Right.
I feel bad for her. I don't know her. I don't know everything that she said. I didn't get involved in a lot of that stuff. But it just seems as though some of these things, and that's why I kind of come back to this potential camera. And real quick, Jeremy Pearson, thank you for the $5 super chat.
Yeah, I
never
was
want
to
to
say
forget
that. Thank you.
making a mention of that. Thank you so much. For that to be brought out and then quickly retracted just gives me the thought process that it's probably legitimate, and there's a potential chance that somewhere that's in an evidence locker. It's surprising it hasn't been released. I mean, now we're watching all this stuff right before trial getting released, and I'm surprised it's not one of them.
Well, the timing of it is interesting, AR, because remember the text message nonsense between Dylan and Bethany, and Dylan texts Eric Gar. I've been getting corrected every time I do a video. Goer. Somebody from Moscow said it was Goer. Then somebody that went to high school with him said it's like Gar. It's odd, but anyway, I'm going to say Gower because it's easier. Thinking that she's texting him at 2:10, and if they were talking about that camera, somebody running out the house at 2:00, that would be around that time. So she could have very well texted him and said, "Are you out driving?" And then he texted her or called her, or whatever he did, and said, "Yeah." And then he came and got her. And maybe that's when she ran out of the house, because at that point the stage was set. She passed the baton and didn't want to be around when the wet work was going on and hold up at that hotel or whatever they're claiming that the girls were at some hotel. I don't know how much truth is in that, but it wouldn't surprise me, that that's where they were, somewhere else. I don't know. What do you think?
I know I've attacked that theory pretty hard, and I kind of now have to backtrack. I just don't know anymore. That's the crazy thing, because I don't know. I don't know if they did want to go get food and they did end up going to get food. I don't know. I mean, it's just so swirly, because how many times were we attacked, Pete, directly for the thought process that we had that there was no way Dylan and Bethany were sleeping through all of this. And then that
Right.
becomes true. And then we said they had to have known what was going on in the home, and everybody attacked us for that. And then that became true.
Right.
I even made a video stating there's no way Dylan left that second floor without seeing the blood, a body, something, and that became true.
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy to me now. Like, I don't, in my mind, think that they left the house. But could I say they didn't? No. And I'm not going to argue that fact anymore with people, because just because the prosecution and the defense in the courtroom say they were all in that house, at the end of this day now, I just kind of wonder, are you guys all full of it? Like, I think you're all full of it.
There's got to be some reason why they're not telling us where Dylan was that day. There's got to be a reason, because why is everybody else's whereabouts so tightly monitored and her and Bethany's are not? Bethany was at least at the Sigma Chi party, according to the PCA, but, you know, very loose, you know, time periods where you had Kaylee and Maddie, you know, like a blow by blow, step by step, you know, following of them all the way up until they got to the house. But
well, they've even avoided that with Ethan and Xana now. Ethan and Xana supposedly talked to Xana's father. We're at home at midnight watching movies and eating pizza. Now, I mean, it's pretty clear at 2 a.m. in the morning, nobody knows where they were. They were back out and not home yet. So
I just want to know why these kids weren't like 600 pounds. I mean, they're going to the grub truck, coming back from the grub truck. Hey, let's go back again. Let's order some pizza. I mean, I know they're college kids, but god dang, it just seems like odd that Kaylee and Maddie would come back from the grub truck and then even entertain the thought of going back. And that's why I wondered, what if they're not buying food at the grub truck?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, because I remember back in the day, was it college? You were supposed to be on the top ramen diet. Like, I know,
right.
I mean, I was.
Oh,
I didn't have the money to go eat 9 times in a grub truck.
Yeah, I hear that. No, I hear that. It doesn't make any sense, you know, that they would be just unaccounted for in those critical moments before this all happened. And would love to know, who were they hanging out with? Where were they? You know, were they at the hotel before all this during the day? Is that where she was doing the mimosas? I mean, who knows? I mean, geez, it's just ridiculous. But I just don't. I don't know. I'm just really questioning how anybody could not see that those two were guilty as all hell right from the get-go. And like you said, man, me and you were right in on that, and we're right, exactly correct, you know. And I wouldn't doubt that there'll be more things like that come out that, you know, we were right about. You know I caught some hell, you know, for quite a few of my theories and ideas that I've thrown out there. But, you know, just because a creator comes out with a theory or an idea doesn't mean that they're whole hog believe in it. I'm just like to throw out ideas to see what you guys think, and let's throw this around. And when a case is just full of all these uncertainties and unknowns, I think that, you know, it's a good way of kind of blowing the dust off it and looking at it from a different angle. I don't know. What do you think, AR?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and you know, I think a lot of us have been talking about the alternative perp situation, and the discussion is real. There's potentially so many different options that you could look at. They could have possibly committed the crime or been involved in the crime. I mean, even if we get out of the idea that somebody actually physically committed the crime, what did they know? What involvement did they have? Was this somebody that literally was on the internet, just paparazzi? I mean, there's so much that can be talked about, that even if the defense can't sneak in being able to name names or present certain types of evidence at trial, there's no doubt that they can attack so many different angles of potentially the oddity in the area that can lead to other people committing this crime.
Oh, I agree. I just did a video about Papa Roger because I've always wondered what the deal was with that guy. And I'll tell you what, I mean, based on the way I'm looking at it, I think it seems like Eric Gower is the most likely person that could have been there because he would have had inside knowledge about the knife sheath with his
Well,
wife
I
working
also
at the
think
police
Eric
station.
Gower was legitimately at the crime scene. Like you could prove he was
Oh,
there
twice.
numerous
I think he was
times.
there twice, at least twice.
So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree. I got a question here, AR from Viper Puppets. That's a cool screen name. I've listened to the 911 call several times, and I really think the dispatcher at the end says, quote, she's there now, so I'm going to disconnect. What are your thoughts? So I don't know. I didn't hear that, but I guess I wasn't thinking about it either. I'll have to listen to that again and see if I hear something like that. That 911 call is an absolute mess. I mean that is such a staged production of a few kids that were high enough to try to pull it off and made complete asses of themselves, and we're supposed to believe that that's real. I mean, like they're calling 911 for somebody that's passed out when the door was supposed to be shut and they needed big Hunter Johnson to come over there and get the door open. So how would you know somebody's passed out if you couldn't see? And then as you pointed out earlier, AR, you had Dylan. Now all of a sudden we found out when she was going from second floor to first floor, she saw Xana on the floor of her room. And what did she think she was, AR?
yeah, man, it's craziness. All I can say is like I'm surprised one, the prosecution wanted to keep that 911 call in to present that at
Yeah.
trial. Like I'm shocked that they didn't want that out, and
Yeah, because it
maybe the
sounds
reason why they don't
terrible.
want it out is they're going to go with just the transcript, possibly. But I don't think the defense is going to go for that. They're going to want that played. Like um, I know they tried to get it out as well, but I think they're going to want that played over than just words on paper
Right.
because words on paper aren't going to give the effect like what you're discussing. That there's an oddity to that. That's nothing like any 911 call I've ever heard in my life. And people would say, "Well, no 911 call is the same as any other." No, but they have a typical manner that they're made, and
Right.
that one doesn't fit the bill. So
Right. And I know when I followed the Murdoch case, I listened to people talking about his 911 call. And some of the stuff I learned from that is, when the person on the phone that's calling 911 is like telling a story, then it's like they're trying to build their narrative of how they want this thing to go. And they're, of course, like everybody thinks they're the smartest person in the room, so they think they're going to be an Academy Award performance here, and it comes off like stiff. And you would be calling them frantically to get help. That's the purpose of calling 911, not to sit here and chit chat about what happened at 4 o'clock, like Dylan started saying, because she was trying to get this narrative. To me, AR, when I hear that 911 call, I'm envisioning people standing there with a piece of paper reading these things. And that's why I think they self-correct themselves. Like, for example, when the neighbor says, and I don't understand who the neighbor is because it was supposed to be Hunter Johnson, his girlfriend Dylan, and Bethany, but yet the neighbor gets on the phone and she says, I'm the neighbor. We live next door. And she says that the oh, what was my train of thought there? That she said that I saw a man, and when she says I, they say, then she changes it and says they. So she corrects herself, but it's as if she's reading it off a piece of paper that someone else was supposed to say that line. And now she's reading it and she's got to correct herself on the fly because it says I instead of we. it's something like that happens a couple of times in that dialogue. And maybe it's the author in me, but dialogue is the telltale sign of an amateur when it comes to writing. So if a person's new, that's the hardest thing to make it sound real, and to have character voices that sound unique and different, like people would be unique and different. But when you have amateurs writing that kind of stuff, it sounds just like, kids on a high school. Well, I don't discredit kids in high school plays, but little kids, doing plays where they're just reading the lines. There's no life in it. That's what it sounds like to me. They wrote this out. They had 8 hours. I'm sure they had plenty of paper and pens there, and they wrote. I think that's how they did this. I think they're sitting around a table with their script there, and that's how they did that. I don't think there's any truth in it whatsoever. I just don't.
I think the one thing that brings so much oddity to my thoughts is the fact that it's shared between 4 people, where I distinctly feel as though the initial call needs to be by one person, and then Hunter Johnson should have been the voice that was the strongest when he came back down. He should have taken the phone and said, "We have a real problem here. I went up and checked, and I don't think they're still living. Like,
Right.
there's somebody passed in the house," yet he just hands the phone like he can't talk. And I get it. I watched the Steve Gonzalez interview where he clearly states that Hunter J is a broken person. Well, I've got a little bit of an issue with that concern. I watched Hunter J at the memorial take the podium and talk about Ethan owing him money for beer.
Right.
That's not so broken to me. That's not so
No.
broken to me. And again, I get it. I mean, seeing something like that would be hard to swallow. I do believe that, but that whole 911 call is a very simple. If that's true and legitimate in trying to get help, you get the initial person whose phone it is saying, "I need help immediately. I think my roommates are having a real issue right now. I don't know what it is, but I need help." And then Hunter J would seal the deal and say, "Look, you got to there's somebody deceased on the floor. I just went up and checked on him. They're not alive." Like, I don't know what
I
else
think
is
they
wrong.
were there a lot earlier, and that's why I don't think that the reactions are true. I think they were rehearsed.
I'm
And
sorry, that's
granted,
the fakest cry I've ever seen.
yeah, I mean,
The
none of
initial
it sounds
crying.
real. It sounds like a fake reenactment of something. It's ridiculous. And I'm just not buying it at all. I'm just not. And I think that I think these people should go down. I mean, for not reporting a crime. I mean, how many hours were they there? And then if you're looking at somebody laying on the floor passed out, how would you not notice that they had been hacked up to death? How would you not notice that? Like, you would immediately go from, "Oh, I think she's passed out," to, "Oh my God, she's gone," in the most brutal of ways. And that's never
Yeah.
mentioned on those calls. Nobody's freaking out about all the blood or the smell or any of the real things that would actually be going down in a scene like that if it was truly live as they were trying to make it out to be. They may have been freaking out at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, but I don't think they were freaking out at 11:56. I think these kids are it's something's off. Like, I've said that area. I keep saying this, but it's true. It's like Children of the Corn, The Twilight Zone, and The Sopranos all mixed up into one. I mean, it's so whacked, and everything about this case is just not right. It seems like something's going to give to all have it make sense. And I don't know what that is, but it's got us all, chasing our tails, and we're all intrigued by it. Anything you want to add to that, AR?
I agree with you. I
Oh
just gotta
yeah.
sit and take it in and say I agree.
Now, before I forget, I meant to mention this earlier, but I'm going to be doing another contest tonight. So last week or over the weekend, I did one to be on a video with me. And it could be either live or recorded. We could work out the details. I'm open to suggestion for whoever wins. But the lady that won it over the weekend emailed me and said, thanks for picking me. But she says, the more I think of it, I'm a little intimidated by doing it. And I don't have the right computer. And she goes, when I get all my stuff together, I'll let you know. But go ahead and get somebody else to do it. So that was cool of her to do that. So you got the opportunity if you're interested, 18 or older, as long as you're cool with being on a video, whether it's with your phone or a laptop. There's no pay for your time, but we'll have a lot of fun, and who knows, maybe you'll wind up starting your own channel. I know I've done this kind of stuff before, and that's what happened with Blogger Girl, started her own channel. So keep watching the video for the details, because you have to be watching the live to win it. So you want to pay attention to what we're talking about. And there'll be a question at the end. I'll pick the winner with the random number generator, and you could be a YouTuber star just like me and AR Hayes, right?
I'm just a sideshow. I'm not a star. I'm just a part of the circus. I mean, I'm the one that runs out and picks up all the elephant poop at the intermissions.
I think it's fun. I know on the podcast we've done that before. We had guests come on and co-host the show with us, and it was always a lot of fun. So people enjoy getting involved, and not everybody wants to do that. I get it, but if you're interested, just stick around to the end, and we'll do that. We're going to close this thing out at 8:30 Central. So we always do 90 minutes or less. So we're rolling on here, about another hour or 55 minutes left. Try to get some of your questions here, guys. Not so much questions. Here's Viper Puppets again. Why do you think they didn't test the mattresses? That's a damn good question, Viper Puppets. What do you think, AR? Why in the world would you not test the mattress when your victim supposedly died upon them?
That's got to be one of the most ridiculous things when it comes to crime scene investigation I've ever heard of in my life. But it doesn't
surprise me. The guy
me.
died on a blanket, and we're going to pick the blanket up and throw it in the garbage. You know what I mean? It makes no sense at all.
It just tells me there's something about this crime scene. I mean, they also utilized the very excuse that they thought they could only run one sample through CODIS. So you're not going to test other known blood DNA at the crime scene just to at least exclude somebody? I'm not even saying you got to do it to try to get to a suspect. You can do it to exclude potential suspects.
Right.
And what a just, I mean, you have to shake your head. You got to wonder
how in the world, what's wrong with this world that a man, and I don't care. I mean, we got some people here in the comments. I'm looking at the mods are crushing it, throwing people out. So apparently there's some foolery going on, and that's fine. It's being dealt with. But we can have a civil discourse. I don't understand why, if you oppose a creator and you're going to get in there, chat, and just asking normal questions, I think is completely natural. But when you're in there getting all nasty, I mean, that's just stupid, and it doesn't do any good for your cause or the points that you want to make. But this case is just so polarizing. I've never seen anything like it. It's really unbelievable, But I think that's a good question, though.
I brought that up when I was talking with Lucky and my wife the other night on the live. This case literally has brought out the worst negativity I've ever seen when it comes to discussions of true crime cases. Whether you believe this individual, Brian Koberger, is innocent or guilty, you should still live life in a manner of respect and be able to treat others with that very respect in a discussion. I mean, all of a sudden, because you have a difference of opinion when it comes to a true crime case, you now have to treat others. I don't know what comment happened, but let me kind of put
Yeah,
it out there real quick. I can't see the chat anyway,
yeah,
other than if I really squint to look at it. So if you want to come in here and be negative towards me, I'm not going to see it anyway. So I could care less. Um, and my wife and I, we've had a long discussion. I don't recognize negativity anymore. So if you want to call me out negative manner or whatever as a content creator, by all means, go ahead. I'm not going to see it. I got to move forward in a like we said, Pete, a positive nature. We're not going to discuss negativity. Positive things are happening on the health front. Positive things
right,
are happening in life. That's what we're going to talk about, and that's what we're going to move forward. But we're going to discuss very topics like this, Pete, that
right,
are real and true questions. You were talking about a contaminated crime scene that was not properly investigated. In the older days, that would be so attacked by everybody pre-trial and then
right.
most likely dismissed at trial. And
Yeah,
now
look at
people get to
OJ, how they'd
say,
handle chain of custodies and
right,
all the different things with the blood evidence or how it was stored. I mean, they would have a field day if you actually picked apart this investigation. Like I did that interview with that Australian police officer, and he was just completely blown away at how piss poor what you could, what we know of. We don't even know, it's probably even worse, of things that were botched, missed. They only took what, 115 samples of DNA, or crime scene samples in a quadruple homicide like that, in two different rooms spread out over 3 stories. I mean, that's insane. I did
well,
some searches, and the average on one homicide is 300. So
no.
1,200 samples, they only took 115. And the mattress is not sampled. The bed frame's not sampled. The headboard's not sampled. Let's not sample anything around where the crime happened. Let's search a button snap underneath a comforter underneath one of the people. That's is about as shady as it gets when it comes to supposed planted evidence. And I know that the people that don't agree with us, AR, they really still think that DNA is irrefutable. It's just it's the death knell of Koberger. I don't know. I mean, I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, but is there anything you want to put in there with that conversation?
Well, let me ask you, and this goes to everybody that wants to discuss DNA and how damning against Brian Koberger this is. Okay, you found a little bit of DNA on a knife sheath. Why is the DNA blood found at the crime scene on the handrail not damning? Why are these other DNAs not damning? It's even potentially stronger DNA evidence than what's on
Under
that
Maddie's
movable object.
fingernails. Under
Yeah,
Maddie's fingernails. How much more appropriate could you get to the victim of a crime than underneath their fingernails? I mean, seriously, that's ridiculous
at the end of
to
the
not
day,
have
in my
anything
opinion,
definitive.
Pete, the biggest answer to this DNA being damning is very simple. Nobody wants to explain the process that they used with this DNA to get to Brian Koberger, to the point that they just want to hide it all, even at trial, and just say it
Right,
was a tip. Okay, that's bogus, man. That's bogus. We're going to convict people on untruth tips.
right.
That's how we're convicting people now.
Yeah, that's just absolutely horrible. But it's funny, when we do these AR, we go into the weeds, and I'm often the one driving us in the weeds. But you had you had brought up that lime green. What an ugly looking a Hyundai Elantra. But We saw it in the demolition video. If you watch that demolition video, it was actually parked right there on the street. You could see it as plain as day. You can't miss it. It looks like a highlighter, like it's really, really lime green. And so Lana, did that video talking about, that guy. What was his name? You said AR, the guy that went through that video.
From what people have, sent me, it was Mark B or something of that nature.
That
I
that's
don't,
it.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know anything about him, but it was very fascinating. I'm going to link to that video in the description of this. So if you want to go check out Lana's work on that, she does really good stuff. I don't always watch the long lives because that's just too much, but she puts in the work, and she definitely is like a pit bull on a pork chop when it comes to this case. And that's what we need. We need creators going after it. JLR, I mean, I know people poke fun at the guy, but like he's boots on the ground. He's all over the damn place. And there's something to be said for that. I think that's what makes the true crime community great is you're going to have interesting characters. If all of us were boring, you guys wouldn't want to watch it. You people get a kick out of me with the 666 thing, and then there's people that freak out about it, think I'm some kind of devil worshiper. It's just a little something different, something a little unique that you probably never heard listening to true crime before. But I've been doing the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast for 7 years, so this is not anything new to me. But yeah, so it's just but this lime green Elantra could be a problem for the prosecution when it comes to their silly suspect vehicle number one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to definitely dive into it a little bit more. I've only broken the surface when it comes to that, and I got to thank the community for even breaking the surface,
Yeah,
because as I sit and take a break, many people share information with me, asking me to take a look, which is always cool. I mean, I'm sure you get that same feeling. It's always cool when a community reaches out to you to get your opinion or
oh
your
yeah,
thoughts. And the number one thing that I want to say is I have absolute respect for Lana over at Truth and Transparency. He definitely puts she I should not say he, but she puts in so much time, so much effort. And I know she takes a lot of heat for her work as well, but I think that she's doing well.
right.
And I do see people discussing Jay Embry, and I think that he's going to put in his due diligence as well. It seems as though he's really on top of things and working hard behind the scenes too. Um, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting, Pete, to see.
Yeah,
But from the little bit that I watched when it came to Mark B's video, where he was breaking down the broken portion of that license plate that I believe is in the front of the car, that's
yeah,
pretty
that was
impressive, and
killer.
that's pretty important.
That was killer. He had the magnification at 500. It was like pixels by pixels, but painstaking work, but able to show that the car that they were looking at was actually this lime green Elantra. That's one of the people that lived at the Queen Road Apartments. He owned the car, and it's not like he's a suspect or anything, so don't get all crazy with that. But his car was in the neighborhood, obviously, because he lived there. And, in a doorbell type camera, it's going to look white. So that's why they didn't realize it was green. It didn't start out green. They don't make them in that color, but apparently the kid that owned it used to have a green car, and it was like called him the Frogman or something like that. This big thing he liked, and that car got trashed, and so he gets this other Elantra, and then it was gray, and then he got wrecked, and then when he had it redone, he had him paint it in his lime green again. So it's unique. It's very unique. But this guy, he picked, like you said, that broken license plate holder, and then the way the license plate sometimes, because apparently this kid sometimes puts his front plate on and sometimes he doesn't. And when he does, sometimes he puts it on like a roller, like a bracelet on a wrist, on that lower part of the grill, and he was picking that stuff out. And I don't know how you refute it. And I'm sure people that want to see Koberger hang are going to find some way to discount it. I mean, it's natural. I get it, but we could at least do this in a civil way and not get silly and childish about it. But like you said, man, it's unfortunate that it's been that divisive, with the community.
I think it's going to be very interesting when this gets to trial to hear the back and forth between the experts when it comes to the car identification. To hear Balance get up on and try to explain why the years changed, why things changed, but then the defense's capability to have their experts step up and do their best to disprove that that's Brian Koberger's car.
Yeah. But, lime green, I mean, you can't get much further away from white than that. But yeah, so that's an interesting story. We'll see how it develops. I mean, some people are going to want to, not credit it no matter what you say. And then, some people are going to go crazy with it and run down more rabbit holes. And I think that's what makes this case is just all the interesting rabbit holes you climb down.
I do want to kind of push let's not start looking at this individual as though he's a part of this crime because he drives a green car and lives in the neighborhood and potentially was caught on camera driving through the neighborhood that he lives in.
Right.
So we've got to be careful there. That's one of the hardest things about this case is everybody wants to do due diligence, but I mean, now we're literally starting to look into people that potentially have absolutely nothing to do with anything other than they live in the area. So we got to be careful.
Yeah, I agree. He has nothing that we've heard of at all to do with any of this. I'm just looking here at some comments to see if we can get some read here while we continue on here, AR. Yeah, somebody here, Crime Tech Explorer says, and I know, what he's saying because I've also had questions about this. When Steve Gonzalez says, I paid that bill. What do you think he's talking about, AR?
I mean, I guess it depends on which way you flip the coin. I don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand the loss of his daughter, and he had to pay for stuff when it came to his daughter's loss and things of that nature. But there's no doubt in my mind, there's a little bit of passing to get the word out against Brian Koberger and potentially even the leaking of different videos and things to creators to get them above in views, and that's paying the bill. I mean, there's and I'm just careful. Like I don't want to badmouth anybody, but could he be potentially still wreaking havoc within the jury pool, which is why we had to move this case from Layton County in the first place? There's a good chance. I mean, unfortunately, and I think he's got people working with him to do that. People like Dateline, people like Nancy Grace, people like Banfield, Coffindoffer. These people are all on the same team, and it's to get Brian Koberger convicted before we even, get this in front of a jury. And so far, unfortunately, the path looks hard for Brian Koberger and his defense team. The path looks very hard.
It really does. It really does. But one thing I wanted to mention about Steve G, I did a video on him. I've really stayed away from him, but there's just some stuff that just really bothers me. But I'll tell you what's at the top of the list, AR, is how in the world do you get the news that you got on Sunday morning, November 13th of 2022, and not get in your car and drive immediately there? Instead, they stayed home and watched a football game. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, who reacts that way? I mean, that's just weird. I mean, it's just like the Chapin sending those kids back there the next year. It's like they just don't react like normal parents would react. Like, I just don't understand what would be more important than getting down there. Didn't they have a son that went there? I mean, wouldn't he need some consolation from his parents, for Christ's sake? I mean, am I missing something?
It just, I think it goes hand in hand with the entirety of this case's oddness. Like it just fits in perfect when you talk about a crazy case.
Right.
uh, I mean, that just falls right into it because I do remember, my parents waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to a phone call that my sister had been injured 8 hours away in a massive car wreck. And my parents were out the door in less than a minute. I don't even know
Right.
if they were dressed on the way out. They left us kids at home to go, and then they had to remember to come back and get us. They were so devastated and worried. Um,
Right.
just to me, but I can't tell people how to parent. I guess I
Right.
can't, judge people by the way that they do parent.
Right.
That's just not something that within me that I would be able to do. Like if I heard, I don't have a child, but if I heard my wife was in danger or hurt, there's no holding me back from getting out that door. I don't care if I have a driver's license. I don't care if I can see. I'm getting there. Like that's it.
Right.
So that's just me and my nature, I guess.
No, I hear you, man. It's just very strange to me. And then the other thing I found strange is I found out that he had some sort of medical issue the night before and was in the hospital. Wound up getting sent home. I'm not even sure what exactly it was that was wrong with him, but I'm just wondering. I mean, I don't
Some
want
sort of
to accuse.
rash. I think they said it was a rash.
Oh, is
And the
that what it
funny thing
was?
is that came out long after the fact. That came out way after the fact. Um,
Right. And I'm
and
wondering
it,
if it was. I mean, I hate to say it, and I know I've been chastised for making some bold statements here, but what if it's somebody that knows something's going to happen and is starting to have physical, signs of that penned up anxiety? I mean, why else would he be so lackadaisical the next day to just keep watching the football game? I mean, I'm trying to understand that, and when I try to understand that, I think that's the type of reaction a person that either knew it was going to happen and is like, okay, whatever. I still don't know how you say just whatever, but okay, so we'll get down there when we can get down there. This is a good game. I want to keep watching it. Do you want to get some dominoes? I mean, seriously, like it just doesn't make any damn sense. So it's either somebody that knew it was going to happen, or I don't know. I mean, it's not the reaction of somebody that would get the news like that, in my opinion. And I know, like
I,
you said, we can't say that people how they're going to grieve, but this just really doesn't pass the smell
I
test.
know it's none of my business, but I would love to see the phone calls made immediately after potentially being notified your daughter could have lost her life. What phone calls over the next 20 minutes were made from their phones? Who were they made to? How
Right.
long were the call? Who were you talking to? What, or did you just set your phone back down on the table, go back to your game, and then later get notified again? Uh,
Right.
I would love to, if you're going to collect devices and try to piece all this stuff together, I think you need to really spread that net out and bring
I
in
agree.
all the devices and try to put it together.
I agree. I would imagine with all those cell phones of every person that we've talked about that even is remotely involved in this case, they could have figured this whole damn thing out. I mean, these kids text each other, at moments' notice. They're constantly Snapchatting each other and doing all this stuff. There would be a digital trail as far as the eye could see, and you would have a much better idea of who was really involved. But, as we both know, they had their man. They knew, that they were going to pin this on Brian Koberger. I just don't see any other way around it, to be honest with you. I don't see him working in a group. I don't see somebody with his condition, his medical condition, to be a guy that works well with others. I think he's a loner. So I think if he was involved, he would have to be the guy that did the entire thing. And you and I both know that we're just not seeing that in him, somebody that would be that vicious and that physically able. I mean, in that bathroom selfie, he looks like he's just been puking for 10 hours. He looks very sickly. And I just am not seeing a guy like that with the vigor to be able to do what he did by himself.
Well, now even with this new Dateline that's being released, and the girl evidently that exchanged phone numbers with Colbert decided that she wanted to come out and speak on, on TV on Dateline, which tells me she's no part of this case. She's not going to be taking the stand at all to do any type of actual testimony. But that's odd to me because this sounds like one of maybe a handful of people that knew Koberger somewhat in the local area. I mean, this is the exchanging of phone numbers where she even describes him as the PhD student. And then, now he's a potential murderer. Well, how is she not taking the stand to have to explain how Brian Koberger, who now is also claiming, autistic behavior and differences of being able to get along with people. And I do feel like the prosecution's going to try to portray him not getting along with females. How is she not taking the stand, but instead she's talking on Dateline before this goes to trial?
Right.
These are the things that should not be happening. They should not be happening.
No, I agree. I mean, this is, as we've said before, unlike any other true crime case, with maybe the one exception would be the Delphi case. The Delphi case has just about, if not more, and I know that anybody that's not familiar with that case is going, come on, there's no way. I'm telling you, if you get bored, go down that rabbit hole, because that guy, I think, is very similar to the situation. As I don't believe he was involved with it at all, and I think he, got railroaded by the police. Very similar cases, very similar.
And see, I kind of
oddly
wanted
enough, Eric Gower's dad lives within like 20, 30 minutes of Delphi.
Really?
That's interesting. Yes. He visits his dad often, and he goes to Indiana, and it's very close, apparently, to Delphi. So I'm not saying he's involved in Delphi. I'm just saying, of all the weird things about this case, there's even, if you go back in the Delphi case, back to when the town was founded, like back in the day, somebody involved in the founding of the town, last name Mabbitt. I mean, again, I know it's a coincidence, but are you kidding me? Like, how many weird, it's like that Lincoln and Kennedy thing, how many weird, goofy coincidences can you have in a single case? I mean, it's just, it makes it just unbelievable. It really doesn't seem real, but of course we know that unfortunately it is real,
the one thing I got two things really I want to comment real quick. Like I've got a comment in here. Do I feel as though they just picked BK out of the sky? No, I don't. I think that there are things that led the investigation to Brian Koberger, and I've never doubted that. I know many people have talked about like conspiracies and corrupt and this and that. I've always stuck, and Pete, I think you'll attest to this. All I've said is I've never felt this investigation was properly done. I don't feel that the tactics that were utilized in this investigation were proper. I think there was a lot of backdooring, and I think that they jumped the gun and they went after some leads that led to Brian Coberter, and now they may struggle to put together enough evidence to get the conviction. I'm not saying they don't have any evidence. I'm just saying they might not have enough to get this conviction. But at the end of the day, one thing that concerns me so much is they've had 2.5 years, Pete, almost 3 years, to have let evidence out back at the very beginning. They could have just lifted this gag order,
Right.
handled this case in a normal way that cases are handled, let evidence come out, let people see step by step what's being presented as evidence against Brian Coberter. Instead, they've held all that back, and we're literally less than a handful of months away from trial. We're in the midst of working on getting a jury for this case, and now they want to start letting so-called evidence. We don't know if it's real. We don't know if it's legitimate. They're letting things slip out that now could directly affect a jury.
Right.
And that's where I scream. And that's kind of I want to go there in some content. I want to do a few videos on this, because this is where I don't care if you found Brian Coberter guilty or innocent. I don't care. At the end of the day, you have to look at the system and say, is this the appropriate way to get to a verdict? Because to me, it doesn't feel that way. This does not feel like the appropriate way to either A, find someone guilty, or to potentially cost yourself. I mean, could you imagine this? If this ends up in a not guilty verdict, and it all comes back to their manner of investigation and the way they presented facts throughout these 3 years, that all of a sudden it gets overturned by the Idaho Supreme Court, and they just say, you know what, all of this is just, it doesn't go by our constitutional rights. We got to drop this. He's not guilty. We're letting him out. Well, now, I mean, that's just as bad as convicting a guilty individual. You could potentially let somebody out that's guilty, and they get off.
Exactly.
I think
I had a really good comment here from Crime Scene or Crime Tech Explorer. This is interesting, bringing in another true crime case into the fray here. But the surviving roommates took a cue from the parents of Joan Benet Ramsey and called as many people over to contaminate the crime scene. That's very interesting, because that was definitely a huge problem with the John Benet Ramsey, was all the people that were at the house, and the cops couldn't get a hold of it, and lots of trampled over evidence, I'm sure. But what do you think about that, AR?
This crime scene's absolutely contaminated the minute that Hunter and other people went into this crime scene. It's contaminated. I don't care what this crime scene is contaminated, and now you've opened the door that you can't even prove the one major piece of evidence in that home, which is deemed to be the knife sheath. You can't even prove legitimately that Brian Coberter is the one that put it there.
Right.
People
and then they didn't even send the knife sheath. They didn't even send the knife sheath to be analyzed. They swabbed the button snap and then sent that to the lab. So how do you even prove that you swabbed the button snap and you weren't swabbing his apartment door or his car door or his coffee mug at WSU? I mean, I hate to be black helicopter here, because I'm not normally this way, but they just continually do stuff that makes you think that they're up to some sort of shenanigans. I mean, it's apparent. It's not even like going crazy, tinfoil hat stuff. This is just stuff that's obvious. Did you see the video Harsh did with his son? He had his 11-year-old son answer like 10 questions about the case, and every single one of them, the kid basically gave the same answer that either one of us would. For example, if you were the person that did this crime, would you drive your own car to the crime scene? And he's like, no, that's stupid. Somebody would see you, you know, and then all these questions. It was really well done. It was very clever. And so an 11-year-old boy, I'm sure he's a sharp kid, but I mean, we're not talking about stuff that Columbo needs to figure out here. I mean, these are things that an 11-year-old can see. And Harsh has said it before too about the 911 lack of calling 911 is any 5 or 6-year-old knows they're taught in school. If there's an emergency, you call 911. I mean, every kid knows that, you know, and you hear about kids saving their parents or grandparents all the time by doing that. So the fact that these idiots, you know, were doing whatever the hell they were doing, practicing their play for 911 or whatever was going on, cleaning up, I don't know. I mean, they were up to some sort of shenanigans, getting rid of product, but that wouldn't take 8 hours, you know, unless they had to give it to somebody that, you know, specific that they had to wait for. I don't know. But
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I maybe I just overlooked it, but yeah, I mean, calling people to the crime scene prior to calling 911 legitimately is an intentional way to contaminate a crime scene. Why did you have to call other people? If you're able to call them, you're very easily able to call 911. And someone was even telling me, I don't know if it's true, that you can even text 911 services now, or
yeah,
they have other ways of getting a hold of them.
you you
So even if
can.
you're on the phone with somebody, you still have routes that you could still call 911. So
Right.
very interesting. Very
It
interesting
is
concept.
very interesting. So yeah, some really good stuff here in the chat. Guys, I really appreciate you coming to the live today. We're still going strong here. We were getting up near the 400 or so in the chat, so that's awesome. Um, but we got about 20 minutes or so left, so we'll keep going. I'm kind of skimming through to see if I can pick up on any questions or anything that anybody's asking about. I haven't seen anybody getting tossed, so I guess whoever was doing it's gone, so that's good. Kim Corselli, DM called her dad, and he had a lot of knowledge about deleting stuff. I think, you know, he helped them get rid of stuff. I don't know. I mean, you know, he has a shady past, you know, Dylan's dad, you know. He's got some drama, AR. I mean, he could, I guess, be somehow enveloped in this whole mess. What do you think?
I think that just like I said about the Gonzalez family, they definitely need to look at his phone records as well to see who he reached out to. And it sounds like they have. And that's
Yeah,
what's showcasing there's potentially something happening in regards to deletion or removal. And look, I mean, it's pretty known that like when people commit crimes and they're trying to get away with things, they reach out to other people that would have knowledge of that. Like in my younger
right.
days, somebody that potentially committed a crime and was trying to get away with it and was worried about things would reach out to somebody like myself who also had a criminal history to get my opinion or my thoughts on how to overcome certain things or get rid of things or so I mean with Dylan reaching out to her dad who probably has a background and knowledge from that background, he would be able to give her advice. Why else would you call him on a Sunday morning at such an early time frame? And then it's just an oddity, it seems like, of the conversation. And what's even more odd about that is you got Dylan doing it with her dad. Why was Bethany calling her parents
Right.
literally the same morning? That tells me there's something more to all of this. And
Oh yeah.
we'll see what
They
that'll
were all
be.
lawyering up. They were all getting ready to lawyer up. They were getting the people in place, you know, the people that were going to protect them. Mom and dad going to get the, you know, the attorneys. We know Dylan's got attorneys on her, on her side of the family, her stepmom and her uncle up there in Kootenai County, but is the prosecutor. So I mean, you got people like that know the law. I mean, the first thing they're going to tell them is don't talk to anybody, shut up and go somewhere and sequester yourself away. Don't go out and talk to people.
Well,
And
I can tell you too, if I thought somebody had passed out, drunk, or over partied in my home or was sick, even potentially loss of life, my parents wouldn't be the first one I picked up the phone to call. Like
right,
my parents would be like, dude, why are you calling me? Call 911. What the hell are you calling me for? Like,
we
there's
had a
nothing we can do.
situation. We we had a situation like that with a buddy of ours that we were at a friend's house drinking, and his parents were out of town, and this kid was, he was a small guy and he was drinking hard liquor, and he went in the bathroom and he wouldn't come out, and like we couldn't get any sort of response from him, and it was like we were like had 911 like with the phone in hand ready to call him, but we wanted to be damn well sure that we needed to call him because if not, we were all going to be in a whole bunch of trouble. And we wound up busting the door down, and we're able to get him up and get him, back to being coherent again eventually with some coffee. But I remember that was a scary feeling. So I mean, if you really genuinely thought somebody was in a situation like that, a normal person's reaction would be, oh my God, we got to get him help, and we got to get him help right now. Not 8 hours later when it's convenient because of whatever is going on in the background. Because I think that may be why they were waited, was whoever did this told them, don't call 911 until noon tomorrow and give us plenty of chance to get the hell out of Dodge. Um, may very well been a reason why they waited, was they were told to wait. But I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I mean, what's your opinion? I mean, do you feel as though the jury will have no questions over this 8 hours? Like the jury is legitimately going to be comprised of people that will have absolutely no question over an 8 hour gap, and then
No,
the text messaging and all this stuff going on. Why would the prosecution even want this in? Like, I don't get it.
I
It
agree.
doesn't make sense to me.
It makes them look horrible. And the more guilty they look, the less guilty Koberger looks. If anything, not that he did it by himself, that there's some other people, because boy, wouldn't that be rich to see the perp walk there with some of these people that we think maybe had some involvement, to actually see people getting arrested because there's some evidence coming out. She got that tip, Ann Taylor, that deadline's coming up on the 15th, right, Ann?
Yeah, I mean, the 15th is right around the corner, but I mean, like, to me, it's a big deal. To a lot of people out there, it's not that big of a deal because they're going to be able to present the fact that there's evidence that potentially means there's alternative perps, and
Right.
they're going to be content with just trying to present the fact that Brian Kober did not commit this crime. But at the end of the day, if I were to put myself in the defendant's chair, I want to be able to point at certain things and say, see, this is exactly why this potentially happened. I want to create a motive that a jury can follow that makes sense, that would lead in a direction to somebody else. And to be able to go with that idea of being able to do that, you have to have evidence to follow to create that motive, and then point at somebody. So like I said, I'm a firm statement that I tell people Brian Koberger is not sitting in a good place right now. Like
No.
moving forward into this trial, it's not looking pretty. Everything that they've motioned for has been denied.
Well, they got
Every
a
motion
judge
they
that
tried
doesn't
to
want
file.
anything to do with the defense. I mean, that's for sure.
Well, even outside of that, the death penalty is still on the table. It has not been removed. If the defense at this very point legitimately thought, Pete, that this death penalty should be off the table without question, and they would have submitted all the documents to, the Supreme Court. They would have been battling this already at the Supreme Court level. I think that they're making a good decision in making this agreement that the prosecution now can do their own diagnosis of Brian Coburger. I feel as though they should have just left it completely open, that their expert could do whatever eval instead of trying to limit it to where they can't go in personality, this or that. Just leave the door open, let the experts do the work, and then see what it comes back to. And that could potentially sway a judge if the prosecutor's own team expert came back and said, yeah, they definitely gotta take this death penalty off the table. That opens up a better jury pool for Brian Coburger. I think that would bring some benefit to him.
I agree. And like you, I also fear that he's up against one hell of a fight here. And I hope that Ann's got some good stuff ready to combat them with. But the fact that you're dealing with a judge that is really very biased toward the prosecution, that's obvious. He's also never done a death penalty case before, and he was appointed by the Idaho Supreme Court. So I mean, what are you going to do? That's who they wanted to. That's who they want in there. They're kind of stacking the deck against the guy, and it's unfortunate. I think anybody, who's a citizen here in the United States should be really fearful of being able to get scooped up like that and put in a jail cell for 2.5, 3 years and on some really shaky evidence, because we know the grand jury, what was it, 3 or 4 of them said they wanted to see more evidence.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to believe that, I don't think that we have all the facts from the grand jury, especially considering where that information came from. I mean, we got to take it, we've just got to take it as a grain of salt.
Right.
Legitimately where I think Brian Coburger has the best odds, the best chance is the federal Supreme Court. That's where I feel like a lot of this crap that's happening is going to be overturned and possibly thrown out, including the DNA, the knife sheet. I think there's a great chance at the federal level, but how much longer is Brian Coburger going to literally have to, walk along?
Because our own military doesn't accept transfer DNA on a movable object. Pretty much every country in the world doesn't allow it. Australia, when I interviewed that cop, they don't allow it when it's a transferable item because it's too easy to be planted or too easy to be, inadvertently put there. Like I've said before, people buy merch, Murder Metal Mayhem merch, and I'm folding the shirt up and putting it in an envelope and mailing it to them. And God forbid something happened to them. Now my DNA is at their house, I mean, that's a real thing. I'm not being Black Helicopter. I'm saying that's a real thing. Or you go to Walmart to look at a shirt and you put it back up on the rack, and then I come in and I buy it. Now your DNA is coming home with me, and who knows? I mean, we transfer DNA all the time. That's why it's called that, so it's not like the blood on the glove or the blood on the handrail. That's real evidence, and ironically, and under the fingernails, and ironically, that's the DNA that we're not going through and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Because if there ever was a time to analyze every damn thing in that crime scene, it would be when somebody's life is on the line. Because you want to be absolutely sure. What is the harm in finding out whose DNA is on that glove outside or on the handrail? Is it because you're worried that one of your buddies is going to show up as being there? I mean, that's what you're left to believe. I mean, honestly, what what other conclusion can you draw? I mean, why would they do that? Why would they not test it? I mean, are they trying to save a couple bucks? I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. So something's going on. There's some sort of shadiness going on. Why they didn't test the mattresses? Why they didn't I mean, that would be a treasure trove of evidence from the attacker and the person being attacked on that mattress with that kind of stuff going on, even if they were well protected. So I just don't know, but
I think that Idaho just got caught in a situation that they didn't feel like this case would be on the map the way that it has become. I don't think they thought this many people would be diving in and following it. And they thought they could just kind of hand walk this one in the back door and get a conviction and move forward. And now here we
right.
are. I mean, we're 3 years into it, and I whether they got the right guy or not, but that's up for debate. But I know their investigation may struggle to prove it either way.
Yeah. AR, I got a special shout out here. I see my mom in the chat. Gotta love that. My mom and Donna Lembo saying hi to my mom, and super cool that my mom comes and checks in. But my mom is beautiful and coming up on Mother's Day, and definitely want to say thanks, Mom, for everything you did, and for getting me into true crime, because my mom worked for an attorney that was involved in the wood chipper case in Connecticut. If anybody remembers that one, that inspired the Fargo scene with the guy in the wood chipper. That's what the director said. That's where they got the idea. But Newtown, Connecticut, the same town as where Sandy Hook happened, the woman who was put through the wood chipper, her divorce attorney was who my mom worked for. So lots of interesting conversations around the dinner table, and a dad that was a parole officer. So those, both my mom and dad, both got me super into true crime. So yeah, seeing my mom here in the chat is awesome. We've only got a few minutes left, AR, so I want to do the contest here. So here's the question, okay? And you have to answer it in the chat. And what I'll do is I'll give you a minute to answer, and then I'll stop it and I'll count up all the people and I'll do the random number generator and I'll announce the winner right here. But remember, this is for you to be on a video with me. So if you don't want to be on a video with me, don't answer the question, okay? If you're game for it, I'll walk you through it. It's super easy. Me and AR could do it, right? AR, anybody could do it.
I'm sure I could join you and help out if necessary. I'm sure I could do it.
So here's the question. All right, everybody ready? Fingertips ready to go. What color is the Elantra that we talked about that was mentioned in Lana's most recent video? What color is the Elantra in Lana's most recent video that we were talking about here tonight? So we'll see. We'll give everybody a few minutes, or a minute. I'll give you a minute. And we've already got everybody answering, so that's cool. If you get the base color right, you don't have to get the specific. I gave a specific one, but you could just say the basic color, and I'll accept that. You see here, Bobby J says her mom got her into true crime. So hell yeah. Yeah, my mom got me into reading. We used to go to the paperback store, or the used paperback store on 3 days and buy.
I gotta say, my bad decisions got me into true crime.
Yeah. Well, you made it on the other side, right?
Now we get to hang out over here in the normal world. I always wondered what the normal world was like, and here we sit.
Right. Okay, well, it looks like I've got quite a few here. I'm going to add them up real quick to make sure we've got Yeah, Ginger says this case is a lot like the West Memphis 3. I agree, and I did not forget that I'm going to be doing a True Crime Deep Cuts on the West Memphis 3 here coming up. All right.
Just don't leave
Okay,
your
how
knife
about
sheath at the scene. Don't leave your
Elizabeth?
knife sheath at the scene when you do a deep cuts. No knife sheath at the scene when you do deep cuts, okay?
That's right. That's right. Elizabeth Posich. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Elizabeth Posich, you are the winner, and you'll be in a video with me. So here's what you need to do, Elizabeth. Email me, pete@murdermetalmayhem.com, and we'll probably do a video together just to meet to talk about what we're going to do. It's easier to do it this way. And then you'll get to see how the software works that we use to do these. Super simple, just like Zoom. It's virtually the same thing. So very easy. And so get a hold of me and we'll do a video and stay tuned for more contests. I love doing contests. So I like doing that kind of stuff. But AR, good to see you, my friend. Glad the first surgery went well, and I anxiously await mine in June for getting my cataracts fixed. But good to see you. Good to talk some Idaho 4. Huge thanks to everybody that's here. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you're on the replay crew, drop a comment in and let us know what you thought. And we'd love to hear from you. So thank you guys very much. And we'll see you around next time.